Namaskar. Today, the topic around which we will be discussing is a very interesting one and it involves awakening. Are we right now as we are speaking? Are we awake or are we dreaming? Well, there are several stories and several ways of looking at it, and I'm not delving into those right now. But this issue of waking and dreaming and sleeping have need to be understood, at least understood clearly if you are in this path of Karma Yoga for 21st Century's Fit for Life program. So we all understand what is waking and sleeping. See, there is, I mean, we can talk about this philosophically and scientifically and so many, but in so many different ways. But fundamentally, we all understand that there is a line. There is a line. Every day we kind of cross that line. We use that line to actually fall asleep and wake up. This particular satsang itself, which we generally always I engage in the morning hours, immediately after the sadhana process that we do, which is pranlila, which we engage in post sunrise. This is part of the sunrise sadhana. So it is part of the whole waking up process. So that at sunrise, we know we do a certain few things at the ashram here. And, so we wake up much before, I at least wake up much before sunrise and then continue the process of waking up till I am here with you when I'm again through this process. I am trying to wake up and wake you up even further. So this waking up process is a continuity, but we all know that particular line which we call going to sleep. Every day we experience this. So that line really demarcates in a certain way a level of consciousness, awareness. Once we go beyond that line, we are not aware that a mosquito is biting us. We are not aware what is going on around us. All our senses have shut down in a certain way. A lot of our other body organs may be still active, but the senses have shut down, and we don't really feel the senses of taste or sound or sight or touch till we have been drawn out of that level of consciousness. Well, of course, within our sleep, when we go into the dream state, we again seem to be aware. We are with our senses in some way, through our mind's eye maybe. These two eyes are shut, but through our mind's eye, we actually see and experience and feel and smell and all that and taste stuff. So that is the dream state. So we understand, and then there's the deep dreamless sleep state. We all know. Now we have experienced this every day. For this, you don't really need to be go into meditation, or you don't need to be a spiritual seeker or a spiritual in some spiritual pursuit or whatever. But this state of your being you inhabit on a daily basis. So we all know this particular issue of going to sleep and coming awakening. So that awakening is clear to all of us, and that is where that is the area of consciousness, awareness. We understand what is changing is definitely something to do with consciousness, because even though when we are dreaming in our sleep state, at that point of time we understand that we are not exactly asking ourselves, am I dreaming or am I sleeping? But when right now I can ask myself the question, am I dreaming? Or is all this dream or is this a sleep? The fact that I'm asking the question means I'm aware in a certain different way. So this is a different level or a different type of consciousness. But once we have, woken up from our sleep and crossed over to this side, like we are right now, I'm speaking, I'm on this here in the camera, and you are listening to this on the other side of the screen, maybe not live, maybe right now in reality you may be listening to this in some other country, at some other time, and right now as you are doing this, I may be asleep. That's a different issue. But generally speaking, when people are speaking to each other and listening to each other, they are wide awake, other than the dream state, let's say. So in this state also, it could be that I am speaking, but not all of it is seeping into you. Whereas to another person who's listening to this, that person is very, very alert and totally conscious, is full of uh, devotion as bhakti for whatever I am speaking, is totally intent and concentrated on what I am listening to. Now that these two differences also we are aware of. So these are two different levels of consciousness in the awakened state itself. And we see all the time, we see this happen all the time. So there is a process of what we can call waking up from waking up. You are awake, but even from being awake, you can awaken further. There is no limit to how awake you can be, for that matter. So there we can see that this awakening is a continuum. And then you can be awake to a certain, you didn't have any knowledge about, the fact that the earth was round. We all thought that the earth was flat. And then one day we all awakened to the fact that no, the earth is round. So that is awakening. So we know that there are those kinds of awakenings also. And then of course people talk about the spiritual awakening, where you are suddenly awake about who you are. When someone is suddenly awake about, oh, the world is like this. You're awake that, oh, this is not a snake, it is a rope. A coiled rope. This is the traditional example that has always been cited, that when you are afraid when you step on a coiled rope in darkness, but suddenly you switch on the light and you see, oh, it was rope. So you are no longer afraid. So you are enlightened to the fact that it's a rope and not a snake. And you behave differently because now you have no fear. So you have no fear, you are happy, etc. All that. So that is an example given for enlightenment. You switch on the light. So similarly, when you are really switch on the light about who you are, that's kind of called a spiritual awakening. Now, in the same way, and those comes through experiences. There's one way of learning about all this through knowledge, and one way of experiencing it, and another way of practicing, and that's what we want to talk about today. The whole Omnidal process that I had explained earlier, that on which this whole learning methodology, this teaching and learning process, which we say what this program is. It's not about me teaching and you learning. It's a process through which the whole community who's engaged in this Fit for Life program, today, tomorrow, any day, is kind of going through an evolutionary and developmental process of teaching and learning. Now, this process is based on a methodology called Omnidal, which I have described earlier. Now, Omnidal, when I described earlier, I talked about Tan Pran Man Chit, or physical, energetic, mental, spiritual, the dimensions on the gross to subtle realm. Today I'm talking about a certain different realm, which is the realm of what we call Jagaran, Jigyasa, Adhayan, Sadhana. What does that mean? Jagaran is talks about awakening. When we are awake, and not just awake from sleep, but the continuum of being awake. That is a process of supporting. You can support someone in that process of becoming more and more and more awake, and more awake about more and more issues. You can be very awakened about who you are, but that doesn't essentially ascertain that you will be as equally awake about what is going on inside a computer. For that you have to be awakened about hardware and software and technology in computers. So awakening is one part of it. Once you are awake, then you ask questions. When you're sleeping, you're not bothered. But once you awaken, then you ask questions. Hey man, where am I? What is this going on everywhere? Who am I? Etc. All that. So that is called jigyasa, or that's when you start discovery. It's a process of it's a process where you start. You become more inquisitive. You are curious. So it's curiosity, and this questioning is called jigyasa in Indian languages, in Sanskrit especially, in many Indian languages. So we call it Jagaran is awakening, jigyasa is curiosity, or the process of discovery. As you are curious, your curiosity is your roadway to discovery. the third part, once you have discovered something, then you know, oh, this exists. Then you want to learn more about it. That is the process of study and research. Research and study. That's typically called adhyayan. Again, in Sanskrit, in Indian languages, many Indian languages, this is called adhyayan. So, Jagaran, Jigyasa, Adhyayan. Three stages in a funnel, you can say. You're going deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, once you have discovered something, you want to really get all the experiences, the insights, you want to learn more about it, you want to research it. So, all the research and understanding, and you want to learn how it is done, the skills, the techniques, all that comes as part of Adhyayan. So, as knowledge and skills, you get knowledge, you acquire knowledge and skills as part of the process of Adhyayan. So, Adhyayan is really acquisition of knowledge and skills, which comes through research and study. Now, this you might have learned about got the knowledge and understood what skills are required. But in order to really make those skills a quality of yourself, so if you know that it pays to be very loving, that's knowledge. And you also know that in order to be loving, these are the techniques. But then in order to actually make it a part of you, so that you have become a loving person, you are endowed with those qualities of love, then you have to practice. That is, and that practice is much more than just practice. It's called deep committed practice, a daily practice routine of deep commitment. That is what is called sadhana. So that is the continuum of Jagaran, Jigyasa, Adhyayan and Sadhana. Awakening, discovery, study and research and practice. Or we can just call it awakening, discovery, study, practice. So but more eloquently, if you want to have some esoteric jargon with you, and especially since I'm addressing this satsang in English, you might want to specially keep these the four Sanskrit words in your mind: Jagaran, Jigyasa, Adhyayan, Sadhana, and that forms the Omnidal methodology also. One side of it, as I said, is Tan Pran Man Chit, gross to subtle, physical, energetic, mental, spiritual. Another side of it is supporting the development of each individual through a program that involves Jagaran, Jigyasa, Adhyayan, Sadhana. So that all makes Omnidal. On other days, I will talk about Omnidal differently from other angles also, and then you will understand how we have tried to make it as inclusive a methodology as possible, as all-encompassing, as holistic a methodology, as integral or integrated. And that's the word that we really want to use, because that's what inspires us. The whole framework of integral is what inspires everything that we do. And so that really comes as a summary of what we are talking about. And you need to understand this concept of Jagaran, Jigyasa, Adhyayan, Sadhana. I hope I have been able to throw some light on it today. More later some other day. For today, take it easy and take care. Namaskar.